Now, if you're looking for a low-cost 2-channel amplifier, an integrated no less, then may I suggest the SA3 from IOTA. It's a Class AB amplifier, pumping out 45 watts over 8 ohms. It arrives in a comparatively compact chassis, and you can buy yourself a Bluetooth dongle for £25. Now, to have Bluetooth on the outside as a separate dongle, I see as a good thing, because when you push Bluetooth inside a chassis, you're basically infecting the rest of the chassis with high frequency digital noise. So to have the Bluetooth dongle obviously on the outside is a good thing, helps to reduce noise. The front is low key and rather minimal, as most of the acreage appears to be taken up by the output window, offering information such as volume and source messages, and this can be switched off if required, by the way. You'll find a large volume selector knob on the right. Tone balance controls can be accessed here, although my review was conducted with these in the off position. It sits alongside a 6.35mm headphone socket, plus a flat, square power button on the far left. The rear offers 5 sets of RCA sockets, a built-in moving magnet phono amp, record outs, preamp outs, and outputs for a subwoofer. You get a built-in Wolfson DAC, which offers optical and coax inputs, and there's also a very usable remote. A typical IEC power socket means that your cable can be upgraded if you wish, something I would heartily recommend. You can use the SA3 in mono mode, bridged for 100 watts into 8 ohms, and you can hook it up to a power amplifier such as the PA3. And if you're interested in a review of the PA3 power amplifier, then I hope to include that particular review very soon. Now, I played a range of music during the sound test. There was a little bit of Mike Oldfield in there, some Dire Straits, some Andrew Gold, some jazz, Miles Davis, and so on. So there's a broad array of musical styles, tempos, and genres. And then a broad sort of first impression. The SA3 sounded what it was, a budget amplifier. It sounded like a budget amplifier, but that's not a bad thing. It's just revealing the character of what it is. It's a budget amplifier. So you didn't get that sort of more expensive amplifier thing where you have that front to back 3D layering and textured sort of complexity in the soundstage. You didn't really get that with the SA3. So instead you tended to have the sound painted on the canvas, and it came from that point, as it were. But that's fine, that's what you'd expect, really, from a budget amplifier class. In slightly more specific terms, the upper mids had a very slight edge, and I mean, tiny. The vocal delivery was pushed right up against the maximum in terms of the upper mid delivery. So, like I say, there was no brightness there. I would never call the SA3 bright in any way, but it definitely had that sort of solid state confidence, and the upper mids were pushed right up to the edge of what was acceptable. What did surprise me though was how the soundstage was constructed in terms of left and right. That is, the breadth of the soundstage and how the music was arranged in a broad and wide angled manner, you might say. The sound was infused with space and air right across the mid-range. This meant that synths and guitar, drums, and other instruments had room to maneuver, they had room to perform. So they never felt crowded, you never felt that the musicians were banging elbows against each other. There was space in between each, and that gave a sort of easy, relaxed atmosphere in terms of the presentation of the music itself across the soundstage. Other things that impressed me included the beginning and the stopping of notes, how much force was given when a guitar was strummed, how long the reverb tail travelled from a cymbal strike, things like that. Information on that scale began to emerge, which was a great positive for the SA3. Now, these sorts of subtle effects, you have to remember, are comparatively rare on any budget amplifier. A budget amplifier does the job. That's what budget amplifiers do. They do the job. They don't give you a whole heap of subtleties. They don't give you nuances, and they don't give you those tonal realism clues. They just give you decent, solid music. That's what they're all about. That's why you pay a low price. And for a £400 amplifier, the SA3 did that. But it also gave you a few of those extra subtleties. It gave you a few fripperies, a few fiddly bits. And that was nice. That was a nice thing to hear. There was extra value there. That's what I'm trying to say. It wasn't just a cheap, cheerful, basic amplifier that I was listening to here. There was more to the SA3. I then used the built-in Phono amplifier. I gave that a quick test and it was fine. It wasn't the best in the world, but it's an internal Phono amplifier, and internal Phono amplifiers, broadly speaking, are never amazing. This particular one was fine. If you're low on budget and you haven't got an external Phono amplifier, then the SA3 will do the job for you, no problem at all. Next up, I tested the Bluetooth option. I had the external Bluetooth dongle, which I inserted into the rear of the amplifier. I then paired that with my smartphone. Pairing was automatic. There was no pairing button necessary. I automatically saw that on my phone's Bluetooth screen. So that was an immediate pairing. What I like to do during a Bluetooth test is to push a lossy file through to be streamed, because a lossy file plus Bluetooth normally doesn't equal particularly nice sound. And the sound here sounded, well, it sounded a little bit crippled, to be honest with you. You had rolled off treble, you had restricted dynamics, slightly bloomy bass. However, the SA3 did the best it could with the limited resources available to it. And it was very listenable. The one thing I did like, the one thing that the SA3 did do, which I heartily approve of, was it expanded the soundstage. Now what that meant was, whatever information was given to it from the Bluetooth stream, from my particular smartphone, it did the best it could for it. It spread that information across this broad soundstage. And so it sounded better than it should have been, you know? It sounded more mature than it really had any right to be, because there was so much space in between each instrument. So there was less of that crowded, claustrophobic feel that you sometimes hear with a digital stream. I then inserted a Nastel & Kern digital music player into the optical port, and I played a little bit of Andrew Gold using a 16-bit 44.1 CD rip. And the music used every measure of space across the broad soundstage to produce a detailed, airy presentation with delicate cymbal strikes, complex background vocal harmonies, relaxed yet organic drums, and a wonderfully delicate series of tambourine taps. I then played a 24-bit 88.2 file of Dire Straits' Brothers in Arms album. Now this particular Dire Straits album in this digital form is a tad compressed, but the SA3 did the very best it could with it. So synth runs, for example, were infused with information. The vocal delivery had lots of space to work within, and that sort of helped a little bit. It sort of helped to remove some of that slight edginess around the upper mids. That compression effect was largely negated when listening through the built-in headphone amplifier as well, largely because the latter added a touch of warmth to the presentation, enhancing bass and rolling off the upper mids just a little bit. The intimate nature of the headphones did allow the ear to pick up plenty of detail though, a case of swings and roundabouts, you might say. So if you're looking for an amplifier with a relatively small footprint, one that's easy to use, well designed, sounds great, the SA3 is for you. It is an integrated amplifier that should be on your demo list, and I highly recommend it. And before I go, just a reminder that I am on Patreon, and if you are able to support me, I'll put a link below in the description box so you can check out my Patreon page down there. Also, there are some social media links which I'll also put down there, including my own Facebook group and of course my website, which has years and years and years and years and years of content for you to read through. Again, a link down there. Why not check that one out? Don't forget, you can comment as well. You're very welcome. Love to see those below. And if you do, keep it polite, no swearing. This is a family channel. Thank you for staying till the end of this video, and I hope to see you at the next. Until then,